spoiler alert, I'm going to be talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's not a lot of spoilers here, but if you haven't seen any of it, I just thought I'd warn you. You've been warned. In the year 2021, the people of the world were divided more than at any other time. The culture wars were in full swing, and the government knew what was needed: a symbol, a hero, a new Captain America. A Captain America to bring the people together. Yeah. So, John Walker. John Walker as Captain America is what I'm going to talk about right now. It's probably not typical for my channel, where I normally talk about things that are on my mind politically or socially, but I'm a comic book nerd. Happen to love comic books. Before I jump into things, I realize I should probably make mention of the fact that A, you should like and subscribe and all the things that people do with videos. B, I have now officially launched my Patreon. So it is a desolate, lonely place, but it is a place for you. So if you want to check it out, I'll include the link down there, and you can check it out and join and subscribe and make my wildest financial dreams come true, or just, a couple bucks a month, whatever it is. John Walker. So contentious. I didn't realize, like, looking at that article, Wyatt Russell receiving death threats for Captain John Walker. I'm not all the way surprised. I the first view of him, I was like, "What is with your face, homeboy?" But that they're down here below. There's I guess it's not on this one. There was a picture I saw. It was a meme of him as the old man from Up, and it was just completely adorable. So that was awesome. Anyways, a lot of people are upset. A lot of people are saying, this is not my Captain America. That's kind of a thing I wanted to talk about, because we don't necessarily like that he's our Captain America, but there's a reason John Walker is the right Captain America for right now, for here and now. And I'm going to explain it to you. So, John Walker does come from the Marvel Comics world. I think he came about in the 80s or 90s. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a Cap nerd. I've read my share of Captain America, but I'm not a Captain America historian or anything of the sort. But Captain America as a storyline has always been an important part of Marvel Comics. If you like Marvel Comics, you probably are familiar with the various story arcs of Captain America to some degree. And I am. So, John Walker, at some point, and I think it was one of the many times where they stripped Steve Rogers of the mantle because he did something that pissed off probably some corporate interest kind of group. And they got all offended. They went and pushed the right buttons in government, and the government stripped him of his role. This has happened periodically throughout Cap's career. They decided that they would go with a new Captain America. And in the comics, the last time I read a Captain America comic, it was Sam Wilson who was Captain America, which I think is extremely cool. And I love the way that Sam Wilson's Captain America is, because he very much is his own Captain America. He fights the battle for America of Sam as Captain America. And that's awesome. He does things like, goes to the border and fights a group of people who are killing migrant workers, which, is topical. And the start of every comic starts off with like a page of fake Twitter talking about like how ridiculous it is that black Captain America is doing black things instead of being a good Captain America like Steve Rogers. I think that's ultimately where they're probably going to go. Either Bucky or Falcon will wind up as the new Cap. Both have been Cap in the past in the comics. but as has Punisher. A lot of people have been Captain America. But homeboy, Wyatt Russell is a great way to get there. You have that moment at the start of the series where Sam gives back the shield, and it's the like, yeah, this is a symbol, and it's an important symbol, and here you go. And then he is betrayed by the government, who give it to this complete jackaninny. And John Walker, John Walker is essentially the Cap of today, and I'll explain that. Captain America was the embodiment of 1950s Americana, 1940s Americana. He, in the movie, he starts off, being a kid who's a little scrawny weakling who's going to the town fair and the USO dances and stuff, and just wants to be a hero. And Steve Rogers is that character. He is that 1950s, 1940s embodiment of that generation. And they've used that in the Marvel world a million times in incredible ways to use the anachronism of a man suspended in time living in a modern age and saying, is this even the America I believe in anymore? Which has been fascinating. There are practical realities when you make movies. Comic book characters don't have to age, humans do. So you can constantly recast your Captain America to always be some young hard body, which is perfectly fine. But in this case, what they wanted to do was they wanted to allow Steve Rogers as a character to finish his role in the MCU. And he may take on the role of head of the S.H.I.E.L.D. He may do a number of things. They may not be done, but Cap is done as Steve Rogers. John Walker was brought in, and he is the Captain America of today. The ideal soldier isn't fighting for mom and apple pie. He's fighting horrible wars in terrible places for essentially American hegemony. The idea that America needs to control the destiny of as much of the world as it can in order to keep the economy doing what it should be doing. This is really what America is right now. And it's creepy and uncomfortable, and there's something to that. That's a thing that should not be discounted. Our Captain America is someone who could be in Guantanamo Bay. And yeah, Steve Rogers could be in Guantanamo Bay, but he would be uncomfortable. A Captain America of today, Guantanamo Bay would be just a reality of the job. And it would be like, yep, here we are in Guantanamo Bay. Guess we're going to see some torture today. Maybe even participate. That's an interesting commentary on the American war machine in and of itself. And I think that's a fascinating thing. John Walker is also very much a psychopath. But he's a psychopath who is essentially a tool. Where Captain America always did what was right and always did what was just because that was what America was. John Walker always does what he's told. And often colors that with a very deep internal darkness that makes for some uncomfortable storylines. And that is what America is today. So I think he's a brilliant choice. And I think that it sets up so much cool stuff with Sam, the Falcon, because Falcon represents a different side of America. And you can, culture war your ass off. The Falcon as Sam Wilson, as a Captain America, is a progressive. The Captain America of John Walker is a deeply dangerous militant. The two of them are so iconically different. And also, I don't know, happen to coincide with the way the fucking world is right now. So that to me is completely fascinating, and I want to see what they do. I could see this, and this is pure speculation. I have a feeling like they are building towards Civil War II. Now, I'm going to quickly just talk about Civil War II. Civil War II, the Avengers found, I'm talking about the comic books now. The Avengers found a character who was an Inhuman, who is another race of sort of humans that were tampered with by the Kree years and years ago, yada, yada, yada. The Inhumans storyline has mostly played out in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and also in the Inhumans series, which wasn't as bad as people tell you, but it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. The Inhumans are actually a very important part of the Marvel Universe in the comic books, and they have not had a really good representation on screen yet. Hopefully that will change. We'll see what they do. But Inhuman character named Ulysses, who was the first Inhuman precog, someone who can see the future. And what he sees, he has visions that are global threats. And when he has these visions, they come true. That is a huge freakout. And Captain Marvel, who you remember from the movies, Brie Larson's character, in the comic books, she basically says, we don't have time to question if this is right or real or what. These are global threats that we have to, like extinction level events, we have to react to these. And Iron Man is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. How do we know they're real? How do we know it's not actually unintentionally Ulysses' fears creating these global problems? How do we know? And the more the series goes on, the more you run into some real moral conflict between the two, where, for example, and I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a character who is believed to be the cause of one of these global extinction type events. And they go before, it's the whole Minority Report. Before this happens, we have to stop him. And we have to do whatever's necessary to protect the Earth. And there's Tony Stark going, whoa, 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 he hasn't done anything yet. You cannot, justice doesn't work like this. You cannot do this. And so that's sort of the premise of Civil War. Now, in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., there is a little girl who I believe is an Inhuman, who is a precog. They haven't drawn a lot of attention to this. It's been an important part of their storyline, but I think it's fair to say Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. isn't, part of the majority of Marvel fans' regular viewing, so they may very well not know. Now, not Ulysses. They may not be using that as the Ulysses character. But I think that's a possibility. Certainly, the idea of having a precog and having that kind of a storyline, it makes for an interesting big budget extravaganza when you have the big final meltdown. And you have that Civil War II where you have the two conflicting sides of the Marvel hero universe. What I like about Civil War is in the comics they have used it as a launch point, both times they did it, for huge sweeping changes to what stories are interesting and what stories are happening. They've brought back series like the Thunderbolts and stuff as related to these things. Now, in the comic books, the other thing I should mention, in the comic books, it all starts, I don't remember the name of the town, but it all starts with this one town. And Captain America, Steve Rogers, goes to this town because they believe there's a cosmic cube there. And this cosmic cube, for reasons I don't want to explain, has become a little girl. And this government agency is figured out that they can just make this town, and the cosmic cube girl will actually just rewrite people into being whoever she wants them to be in her 1950s Americana town. Is this sounding at all familiar to you? I think it might be. Obviously, Scarlet Witch isn't a cosmic cube, but there's some serious parallels with the storyline. In the way that Civil War did it, that girl was the cosmic cube girl was taking villains and recreating them into the town plumber and the guy that runs the hardware store and all that stuff as an incarceration where no one could escape. And it was a whole different moral quandary. WandaVision, obviously spectacular, not the same, but planting that seed in my head when I saw WandaVision, I was like, I wonder if they're leading up to Civil War 2. Now, having said all that backstory, Civil War 2 is the faction of Tony Stark as Iron Man and the faction of Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel you can still do. Iron Man you can't. He's a dead person. You can't reanimate the dead, even though Marvel loves to do that. But I think more importantly, Robert Downey Jr. isn't going to take the role. So they're probably not even considering Iron Man. There's a few options. You could replace Iron Man with Peter Parker, who is certainly sort of the heir apparent of Iron Man. In the comics, there's Ironheart, who is a young black woman who has figured out how to build her own Iron Man suit, just because she's brilliant. There is the kid from the movies in the Iron Man movie that helped Tony Stark at the beginning. There's a lot of people who speculate that kid could be the next Iron Man. Who knows? But what if they went a different direction? What if the two sides of Civil War, because they can do this, they can rewrite however they want for the MCU. What if the two sides of Civil War were Cap? What if on the one hand you had the Captain America of do what the government tells you, fight the good fight, kill whoever needs killing, and just shut up and do your job, versus the Captain America of what's wrong with my America? Why are people being killed by police officers? Why is the world so fucked up? How can I fix that? So you have progress versus status quo. That would be an interesting situation. I would love to watch that play out. I don't know that that's going to happen. But I think in a small form, I think that's what Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to be. And Bucky's kind of caught in the middle because he isn't Cap and he isn't either of those archetypes. Okay, Bucky's a dick. That's kind of his thing, which is funny because he was always like, golly gee, Cap, let me go fly into battle and save you. But, time has aged him. Being a mind-controlled zombie that kills for people, probably going to age you. Frankly, one of the reasons I'm most enjoying Falcon and Winter Soldier is because it's not WandaVision, which I loved. But they are different stories, they have different vibes, they have different approaches, they have different narrative things, and I feel like Marvel has done a really good job in the last few years of telling a mess of different stories and weaving them slowly together to the big payoff. The first Civil War was that payoff, or the Avengers was, I guess, the first payoff, but the first Civil War was the next one. And I don't know that it's going to be Civil War 2. I'm not prophetic. But it's an interesting idea. It's interesting to think that we could wind up with this kind of massive thing. It could wind up being Captain Marvel versus an Iron Man stand-in. It could wind up being two different characters that are completely unrelated. It could be anything. But I'm excited for whatever it's going to be. So yeah, there's my thoughts on John Walker. Like, subscribe, all the things.